Hey everybody, it says welcome back to another Battlefield 6 video. So the Portable Mortar is returning to Battlefield after it has been absent from the franchise since Battlefield 1. This will be a support exclusive gadget and you will be able to use two different versions of ammunition on it. The first one is going to be your standard high explosive rounds, which will be used to disperse enemy infantry and just kill people at range or destroy buildings because Battlefield 6 does have extensive destruction. The other ammunition is going to be the so-called smoke shells, which will be used to conceal your troop movements or the enemy movements. Perhaps in the future they might add more shells to this mortar, like incendiary or gas shells. But for now, on launch day, these are the two shells we are getting. Many people have concerns that this gadget is gonna be on support, which is fused into medic for this Battlefield title, which means if you are gonna be playing the objective, many of your medics might be sitting on mortars trying to clean enemy infantry all the way back in the distance, and this is just some of those ramifications you have when you fuse the old support class from all the Battlefield games into medic. I believe the mortar might be a little bit underpowered in this game. I have heard from the testers who have been playing Mirage Valley, which was when this mortar was first introduced to Battlefield Labs, that it was kind of weak. It had, for example, very low splash radius, and the smoke grenades didn't really last long enough to give your teammates a upper hand to rush into objectives. On breakthrough anyway, on conquest we might see maybe it will have different usages. So how does this Battlefield 6 mortar compare to Battlefield 1 mortar, BF4 mortar, or the Battlefield 3 mortar? So the Battlefield 3 mortar is similar to Battlefield 6 mortar. It was a gadget you had to man yourself, and you were very exposed when you were using it, unless you knew like all the glitch spots on some of the other maps. I think it was very fair for the most part, other than it had unlimited ammunition. In Battlefield 4, of course, the mortar was operated by some type of an iPad, so you could place it somewhere and then you could go back to safety and fire the mortar with this Game Boy iPad or whatever the hell it was. In Battlefield 1, we also had it similar to Battlefield 3, where you had to man the mortar yourself as well, and then you were exposed to other mortars, snipers, gas, and planes, and everything else. So Battlefield 6 is going to lean more in that department, being a mix between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 1 mortar. Are you planning to use the mortar on the support class, or do you think it's just kind of wasted on medic? Let me know down in the comment section. And while it's nice that a classic gadget like the Battlefield mortar is returning to the franchise, something which seemingly isn't returning to Battlefield, at least not on launch with Battlefield 6, is dynamic weather. The Battlefield community started to take notice that Battlefield 6 actually doesn't have dynamic weather, and in fact it never did have dynamic weather. It didn't have it during the early Battlefield Labs era from, let's say, February to July. It didn't have it on August during the Battlefield 6 open beta, and it didn't have dynamic weather either during the Tokyo game show when we saw what I believe to be the latest build of Battlefield 6 9 days before launch. Let me tell you, as somebody who doesn't really care about non-gameplay mechanics usually, I think dynamic weather really is something which is a part of Battlefield. I would love to have it. I always felt myself so immersed in maps like Paris' Storm in Battlefield 4. Once the storm would get triggered, being in a Pacific Storm setting with that game's graphics and immersion and the color palette that Battlefield 4 used to have on those more navally maps was just really making me immersed into that map, even though as somebody who didn't really like Paris' Storm, when that storm happened, I really felt good. I don't know what it was, it just made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I could say the same about the FL 562 from Battlefield 5, also a map I didn't like particularly that much, but once that snowstorm hit, I really felt, wow, this looks so sick, and just made me want to play the game more, you know? I believe that dynamic weather does add gameplay replayability to Battlefield and even other games that aren't Battlefield, single player games and so on. But in Battlefield specifically, when you do play the same maps over and over and over, when they look different every time you play them, I believe it's gonna add to you wanting to play the game more often, or you want to check what type of weather possibilities can happen on, say, I don't know, Iberian Offensive. Imagine if Iberian Offensive could be presented during snow, or maybe a sandstorm, or some type of a tornado, whatever. Although the tornadoes, of course, are a bit cheesy, right, from Battlefield 2042. Listen, DICE, we don't want tornadoes. I think just having a little bit of rain, maybe some snow, maybe a very thin fog of war is good enough for me. I do also believe that the Battlefield 6 developers did probably test dynamic weather in the past, and perhaps it was causing too much of a frame drops, and it just didn't fit with the setting of Battlefield 6. Tiger and Drunks, the developers of Battlefield 6, did work on Battlefield 5, so they were there when dynamic weather was inside their game. They also were there when it was there during BF1 and Battlefield 4. So I'm pretty sure they tried to pitch it in, it was tested, maybe it was also causing some performance drops, and you know how DICE feels about performance. They want that Battlefield 6 runs very well on all computers, low-end, mid-end, and high-end. So if dynamic weather was causing your system to lose 30 FPS, they probably thought it's not worth to have this and took it out of the game, at least for now. Some people on Reddit said they think it was confirmed early on that Battlefield 6 will not have dynamic weather, but I could not find any proof of this anywhere. I did extensive research. They never mentioned dynamic weather anywhere. The last mention of dynamic weather was for the leaks of Battlefield 2042 4 years ago, like in May 2021, when they heard about the tornadoes on Orbital. This was the last time we basically heard anything about dynamic weather in the Battlefield franchise. So we still have time to see this. There is some good news if you are somebody who is a big fanatic for weather like I am. The limited event for Empire State will be on some winter setting that we already know from the leaks of the Season 1. As you can see, it is on some type of a snowy weather. So perhaps it can happen, and maybe it will happen right there on Season 1. Let's cross our fingers. And if you are somebody who enjoys hunting trophies and achievements in your games, you can look forward to unlocking them when Battlefield 6 launches on October 10th, says DICE. The base game's 42 achievements and trophies challenge you to discover and master several areas of the game, from the blockbuster single-player campaign to the all-out warfare of multiplayer and more. PlayStation 5 players will also have 42 achievements to unlock to be coveted to platinum trophies awarded for 100% completion. Battlefield Bulletin added some context to what these top secret achievements are in DICE's post. He says these are special tasks you have to perform in certain missions during the single-player campaign. If we include the Battle Royale/Gauntlet experience, which is coming later after launch, Battlefield 6 will actually have 53 achievements/trophies. So you can get those early achievements from the base game, which is 43, and then the other 10 once the BR and the Gauntlet mode are out, which is gonna be on the 28th, so only 10 days after the base game is out. I want to see who is the fastest in getting the vanilla achievements and then getting the BR and the Gauntlet achievements to get that famous 53 in a record time. I'm gonna track that race. I know many people like this type of stuff. So yeah, for the Battle Royale and Gauntlet, here is the list of tasks you have to perform according to Battlefield Bulletin. So you have to play 74 matches in any version of the Battle Royale, take advantage of 42 call-ins, loot 10 superior or unique items, stun enemies 316 times in the BR or Gauntlet, revive teammates almost 2,000 times in Battle Royale or Gauntlet, win 7 matches in BR. This list is pretty extensive, but it seems pretty straightforward to me. Just play the game basically and you will get this easily. So those are the achievements for Battlefield 6, all 53. In case you didn't know, because it's a very minute detail, but Battlefield 6 currently has no animation to remove the safety pin when the character is throwing a grenade. David Sirland says they will look into that eventually, as it's a detail that just kind of feels off. If this was the biggest complaint from the Tokyo Game Show, I'm happy. We'll look into the pins eventually. It's a detail feeling off. We want the throws to be useful quickly. Since grenades are not super powerful, no spam plays, they need to compensate with speed. It's a very tiny detail, but it's nice devs like David Sirland have eyes for those details. So this is why I'm hoping that they also notice that dynamic weather is kind of missing in Battlefield 6 and we get it a little bit later. It's gonna be interesting to see how the grenades actually work in Battlefield 6. We didn't have that much options during the open beta. I want to see all the grenades that they have available in the full launch. I've heard about the V40 Mini returning from Battlefield 4. This is the small 3-pack grenades. I heard about an impact bomb and much more. So we're gonna see how they operate, because he claims there that they are not super strong. We're gonna have to test and see for ourselves. With that being said, guys, that's the video for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and a comment for the algo. Subscribe if you were new here, and I'll see you guys in the next Battlefield 6 video. Take it easy. Bye bye.